Name is Vandit, and in this video we are gonna start CSS foundations from the Odin project itself. So without any further ado, let's get started. And in this video we're gonna go through the CSS foundation. So this is the CSS foundation course. In the previous video we made a very damn simple website using the basic HTML. We have, as you know, that this video series is technically all about Odin projects. So the project was a simple recipe project. Yes, we applied a little bit CSS there, and now we are gonna get a more in-depth knowledge of each and every CSS element which we used there itself. So this is actually the second time I am recording this video, and technically my exams and my practicals are going on, university exams and practicals, so I was a little bit busy, so that's why I'm a little bit late in recording the video. But without any further ado, let's finish this module, and after this module we are gonna study about the flexbox, and after studying about the flexbox, CSS flexbox, okay, I'm gonna tell you what it is. We're gonna build a simple project, a simple landing page. So that's gonna be a tough one because there's now some CSS concepts involved, and I think that's gonna be a challenge. That is where I'll start having some trouble, because simple HTML is like very basic for me. So I have been like in touch with web development, so I still have some HTML concepts which are clear, but things start to become a little bit difficult when I move to like a more advanced CSS concepts. So without any further ado, let's get started. Introduction. Let's go through the introduction. In the previous lesson you learned how to write the HTML that determines how a web page is structured. The next step is to make that structure look good with some styles, which is exactly what CSS is for. The full form of CSS is cascading style sheets. In this lesson we are going to focus on what we believe are some foundational CSS concepts. That's the things that everyone should know from the beginning, whether they are just starting out or who need a simple refresher. So technically this is the basic CSS syntax, what basic CSS syntax looks like. So technically you name the selector, and then there's this opening and closing parentheses, and after that you write the property, and then there's the value. So that is all about the syntax, what you need to know. So now after that we have selectors. So what are selectors? So what is this selector? So let's go through it now. Selectors simply refer to the HTML elements to which CSS rules apply. So they are nothing but they are the names of the HTML elements which we specify in our CSS file, that we need to change the following properties of this HTML element. So that is what a selector is. What is actually being selected for each rule. The following subsection does not cover every selector available, but they're by far the most common and most used ones. You should get comfortably using first. So technically there are 6 kinds of selector which you are ever gonna need if you're not like a complete professional, or if the job gets done with these selectors. So this is more than enough for you. So the 6 kinds of selectors are like the universal selector. I just wrote it, I misspelled it. So yeah, so the first selector is the universal selector. There's type selector, there's class selector, there's ID selector, there's grouping selector, chaining selector. So let's go through each and every selector one by one. So universal selector. So what universal selector is the universal selector is the element of any type, hence the name universal, and the syntax for it is simple asterisk. the example below every element would have a color purple applied to it. Now I guess you'll get a better idea if I explain this to you with an example. So I have a simple HTML boilerplate over here. Let me just link the CSS file to this as well. Styles.css, my CSS file is linked now. In the body tag, what I'll have is I'll have a paragraph element where I'll just put in before adding a paragraph element, I would add a heading. Let's say this is a heading. Perfect. And after that, now let's go to the heading with the dot one. After that, let's take a paragraph and write this. This is just some value, and I'll take another paragraph over here. Let's give it a value of lorem ipsum once again, and after that let's take an ordered list, and I'm just taking some random example. This is, so let's name it item 1, another item 2, and then we will have another list item 3. Perfect. We have all the examples available now. Yep. Also, let me just encapsulate this paragraph within a div. All right, so yeah, perfect. So this is our HTML code. So what we wrote in our HTML code is technically, just to give you a look, so in our body tag we have a heading h1, we have h1 heading, this is a heading, then we have 2 paragraphs, one is a simple paragraph, another one is encapsulated within a div tag, and then we have an ordered list with list items item 1, item 2, item 3. Now we're going to start applying some CSS properties to the following. Okay, our CSS file is technically linked, so you need to remember use link tag to link a CSS file. It goes into the header portion, and then in the link we give it a attribute rel, which is technically style sheet. You don't need to dive into that. And href is nothing but like you're referring it to the to your file's destination. Since these files are technically in the same folder itself, you don't need to mention the path. Otherwise there's a need to mention the path as well. So now let's talk about the universal selector. As the name suggests, universal selector selects each and every element present in the entire CSS, each and every HTML element. So what let me just give you an example. Suppose now I want the color to be purple as it was given in the example. So okay, should work. Not working. Let me just check. Asterisk. Still not working. Let me just open it once again. Still not working. Weird. A style sheet is linked, styles.css. Let me just command press click. Okay. The name is I made a spelling mistake in the name. Okay, perfect, no worries. So yeah, exactly. So as you can see, with each and every element present in our HTML body, the color purple has been applied. Since it is a universal selector, it applies the property to each and every element present inside the body. Okay, now let's move on to a different selector. So now this one is a type selector. As the name suggests, a type selector selects a selector or element selector will select that specific element which we mentioned, and the syntax is just technically that HTML element name. So to give you the example of the type selector, what I'll do is technically, let's say I'll write h1, I'll give it a color of blue, for example. All right, after that let's take another example. I'll just give it a color of I'll just give it gray. All right, after that what I'll do is I'll take another selector sol ordered list, and I'll give it color red. Perfect. See, I just selected each and every element from this entire HTML body and then gave them some different properties, and they followed that. Okay. Also notice one thing, I used paragraph, for paragraph I chose the color gray, and this paragraph and the paragraph within this div also acquired the properties which I mentioned. Why is that? We're gonna know in like some time. So this is technically basically like the work of selector. Every element which is a paragraph in this HTML file, HTML body, will be inheriting this color. Okay, so we'll get this color. We'll show these changes. If I give it a color of, let's say, green, if you search GREN, green, looks hilarious. But yeah, each and every paragraph, even if in the list item, for example, I'm crazy enough, I just grab like item, and I want one list item to be a paragraph within itself, which we'll do definitely. Even then, it inherits all the property. It takes up the like values, and then will take up the style and color which I gave it. So that's technically your type selector is. Now comes the class selector. Class selector is technically, first of all, what is a class in HTML element? Class is the major definition of class is named group of entities. So what class is technically, we give a same, supposedly in an HTML page, if you want to incorporate a single property to multiple element, to some selected amount of element. Let us say, for example, I want the heading and list to be the ordered list to be of red color. What I can do is, maybe I can technically give it the red property one by one, or I can save some time. I can define because your real world scenario will incorporate some more changes. Every time you won't be coding some long this is a very simple code, but in real world we need to code something which is much more complex, and we need to design something much more complex, and we are not going to do it again and again. So what I can do is, I'll just give it a class, for example, of, let us say, red color. Now the syntax for this is, to select a class is red color. So I'm giving this ordered list a class of red color, and I'm gonna the syntax is we use a dot, and then red, then color, color, and then opening closing parentheses, and after that we just color is equals to red. Yep. See, now only the properties with the class red color will show these changes. Now if I okay, now comes the fun part. With the type selector, when we gave some style to the paragraph element, it showed the when we gave the gray color, it showed the changes. Both these paragraphs showed all the changes which we gave. But now if I give it a class of class red, once again, red color, see, only this class, only this paragraph which has the class of red color will show the changes. Simple, which is very, very goddamn simple enough. All right. So also if I use a combination of something, let's do something fun. I give I use a type selector and give each and every paragraph element a color of, let us say, blue. I gave it the color of blue. Now what really happens is, since this is known as the concept of specificity. All right. So what will happen if I just put it in the above? So see, classes have much more. So class, yeah. So the class specificity. I mean, the class values have much more specificity than technically your the type selectors. So if you initialize a class, it will, I mean, it will show the changes of the classes. I am getting staggered, and I will give you the I might have the specificity order, but technically, see, just to give you a gist, I guess we'll cover that in specificity. Now we'll have the ID selectors. ID selector is nothing but it's just a unique. They're just very similar to the classes, but a unique element ID is given to a element, and then basically you can just use it once. We can just use ID selectors once. Alright, so it is not that vividly used, but yeah, technically it is very, very specific. So they select the HTML element instead of period. Now we are using hashtag. We use hashtag immediately followed by the case sensitive value of the ID attribute. A common pitfall is overusing the ID attribute when they don't necessarily need to, and when the classes will suffice. While there are cases where using an ID makes sense or is needed, such as taking advantages of specificity or having links redirecting to a section of the current page, you should use ID sparingly. So technically, IDs are much more useful, but then they have like a very specific use case. The use case is technically if I have, let's say, ID of, I'll use the ID main, for example, just random ID. Now now on the p tag, on the paragraph element, there are three kinds of selectors which are acting on. Let us say, for example, in this in this element we already have some type, we already have a type selector, and we already have a class selector. All right, so technically what happens in ID is it will just work with similarly, but you just do not give IDs to like all the members in the class, and you cannot just reuse it. So that's the thing, and the syntax changes a little bit. We use main like we use hashtags for the same. If I'll just write color is equals to green, for example, so see, it will just inherit the green color with main. Yeah, exactly. So that's what you do. So this will just superimpose the property of ID main over the type selector. So that's what ID selectors are all about. Group selectors is what when we have two groups of element that share some of their styles declaration. Okay, so group selectors are technically comma separated selectors. When we have one or more selectors technically having the same property, like let us say if I want my, just for example, if I want my main ID slash comma main, as well as I need my red color class, for example, to have a font size of 50 pixels. Red selector became a little bit more obvious, so what I'll use is main, and let us say for example h1. I need my main and h1 to have font size of, let's say, 30 pixels, for example. See, so 30 pixels is applied to this. 30 pixels is comparatively small for heading. I'll just give it 50, but it will just mess it up. So yeah, see, 50 pixel of height was given to the heading and this as well. So that's how, so that's what group selectors are about. So you use that. Now just group selectors, we have group selectors is just let me group selector comma comma separated selectors for the which will have same properties. Makes much more sense to use that. Now both of the example above, with and without grouping, will have the same results, but second example reduces the repetition of declaration and makes it easier to either edit the code, because since you, if you like, let's say in far in the future, if I want to make any changes to both the to heading and this, I want to change it back to normal, back to some human readable format, which is somewhere around 30 pixels for example. So yeah, I will just have to maybe select this. Maybe I'll just come here, and rather than changing it over here and then changing it, and I'll have a type selector of h1 as well. If I just like if I do not use group selectors, so I'll have to use the font size property of 30 pixels over here, and I have to use font size 30 pixels over here. Now if I want to change it back to 50 pixels, I need to change it over here and here, which can result into some ambiguity as well. So it makes much more sense to use group selectors, and we'll use it a lot, I guarantee you that. Technically a noob like me would definitely use it. So yeah, duplicate turn into heading 3. Also I'm making notes as well, so yeah, it's gonna be a long video because even I am learning right now, so it's just a fun chill video. So you guys want to grab some coffee as well, or just play this video on mute or something like that. I don't have any much more expectations since I am learning as well. I just thought that it would be better if I am trying to explain what I'm learning to someone, and helps me improve my communication, as well as develops an online presence. Community learning is a thing, so I would highly recommend you to do that as well, since there's no harm in doing it, and I'm not any professional, and I'm not trying to teach you anything. So it's just a very chill video. If you are looking for some kind of motivation, technically I can make a Discord as well, where we can technically connect and study together. So this is just more like a study together channel, where people, like-minded people who are trying to learn web development, just come together and we just practice stuff. And Odin project is just like a medium, so that we are on the same page every time and we are working on the same thing. And also, if you stick to one resource for long enough, then definitely one resource is more than sufficient. I have spent tons and tons of money on courses and on Udemy courses, on offline institutes, but none of them were good enough. And you just learn when you try to practice on it. So without wasting any further time, let's go to the chain selector. Chain selector is technically when we have two elements with subsection classes that have some sort of unique styles, but want to only apply a rule to a separate rule to the elements that also has the header as a second class. Well, we could use chain selectors in both. So what head selectors, so we have this code. For example, there's a div, there's another div class, and then there's a paragraph, there's a div with a class subsection header, and then there's a paragraph element with a class subsection preview, and Okay, these are different class names. Okay, first of all, there's the subsection, and header is a different class, subsection and preview is a different class. This is where a preview of a post might go. Perfect. We have two elements with the subsection class that have some sort of unique styles. But what if you only want to apply separate rules to the element that also has the header as a second class? Well, we could chain them both and make a class selector together in our CSS. So subsection dot header. Okay, so I'll just give you a better example. This might be a little bit tiring. I'll just clear this up. So we have a div. Okay, here we have a div of I'll just name it, give it a class of red color, and this is BRA. I'll just move this entire ordered list into the div. Okay, now let's give it a class of paragraph, and this is list. Perfect. Now we have there are three classes now. We have one class is we have red color. The second class is we have paragraph. Let's name it para. And then we have the list. So these are the three classes which we have right now. The red color and the ordered list class. The red color and ordered list class. The red color is common in the paragraph element as well as the order element, and we have some unique class para, and then let's say this the list. Okay, available to us. Now what will happen is, see, if I want to apply changes to only and only the red color using the class red color, so what I'll do is technically see, if I just choose red and then color red color, if you remember, I wrote the syntax wrong. Red, first we'll use that dot operator, and then after that we'll just write the name of the class, and after that I'll just name the color as red. Remember, the heading changed because the heading also has the class of red color. So there were three types of changes made now, but I only want to apply the color to red, so to the ordered list. So what will happen is I'll just write a dot list. See, the only changes were applied over here. I can just dot color h1, no. So yeah, this is the group selector for us. Yeah, so I'll just use another para, and this will be para. So yeah, the only red color was applied over here. As you can see in the example, we can choose ID for that as well. Just use it subsequently. In general, you cannot chain more than one type selector, since an element can be two different type at once. For example, chaining two type selectors like div and p would give us the selector div p, which wouldn't work since you would try to find a literal div p element, which does not exist. So yeah, it gives it technically, gives it a sense. Perfect. So this is all about the chaining selectors. Just let me write the name as well. Chaining. Make sure just to maybe go through all the notes once in a while, so it helps you to retain all the information. Just that's a very important part you should always do, so now I'll just define it maybe later. See, there's a game for Flexbox. I'll just when we will learn about Flexbox, I'll tell you about this resource as well. It's a very popular game. I'm sure you might know about Flexbox about this game. So nothing very special, but yeah, I need your views. Yeah. So also there's one good resource which I found, and I am very eager to share it with you. It's a free resource provided by the man himself. His name is Web Dev Simplified. I know if you if you are into web development, then definitely you might know his profile. And so yeah, that's a cheat sheet by the man himself. So I would if you want to go, I'll just link his video down, and you can just go through his this cheat sheet of his. This is a very goddamn useful cheat sheet, and it is curated in such a beautiful way. You'll just love it. So at the sidebar, I'm gonna hide it. Yeah, perfect. So see, there's the number of type selectors which we studied about. Just all right. So the type selectors which we studied about, there was this universal type selector, this universal selector, this type selector, this class selector, ID selector. We studied some more. We have like chain selectors and all that. This is combinators. We are just gonna study about combinators after some time. And then there's pseudo elements, there's pseudo classes. I'm sorry. Yeah. So there's much more to CSS, but we don't need this. But yeah, this gives you a very beautiful gist of all the technically, if you want to just maybe revise once and you just look at this, it's very beautiful and visually represented. I'll link it down for you guys. So yeah. Now there are, I guess, descendants and combinators. So before learning about descendants and combinators, it's a little bit typical concept. Let's go around with properties to get started with. So just selectors and combinators. We'll learn about combinators after some time, because it's a little bit overwhelming. You'll just that's a lot of theory. So it becomes kind of overwhelming. So yeah, let's learn about the use another heading for short. So yeah, you're gonna use h1 for the same, and the properties, basic properties. I'm gonna name it basic properties. Like many properties, sure, like there's a whole bunch of properties available, but here what we are gonna study about is some of the basic properties which will get our work going. So the first very basic property is color. The color property changes the color of the items. Like if you apply color property, it will change the color of text. Now we have background color. Background color property will change the color. It will change, as the name suggests, change the color of the background. Now we'll have font family, that will change the font of the text. We have font size, font weight. Font size will change the text, the size of the text. Font weight will change the thickness of the font, like it will either bold, light, or normal. So text align is to align the text in the, like this text is left aligned. If you have an open word wrap, word MS Office Word or something like that, you might have seen text alignment options. So this is just the same like that. Let me just show you. We have open docs. I'll just open one Google Doc and go to docs and see. See, these are the text alignment options. So text align left, text align center, text align right. So these are the properties available in CSS as well. So it will help us to align the text, and but not only text right now, but it will center any any container. I'll explain you when we move further in the course. So there's height and width property to set obviously the height and width of the same. Now let's discuss about specificity a little bit. After that, basic properties, we have specificity. So you just need to memorize just one thing that about the specificity order. Specificity order is basically, you know, if we apply multiple types of selector to a CSS element, to a CSS to an HTML element, which style would apply in the same. So technically this is the order of the specificity. First of all, we have like the ID selector. ID selector will have much more specificity than the class selector, will have much more specificity than the type selector, and then everyone will have much more specificity than the universal selector itself. So this is the specificity order. And also one more thing which you need to keep in mind is if you have multiple if you have, let us say for example, you applied same property to let us say for example, if I said that I have an h1, and within that h1 I gave it a color of let's say red, okay, and another h1 I wrote another h1 and gave it a color of, let's say, black, and then I have another h1 and I gave it a color of green. So what do you think? So this is, for example, a CSS code in itself. Command Z, turn into. Do we have an option of turn into? No, we don't. No worries. All right. So yeah. So if we have this kind of code, so what color would be applied to the h1 element? The specificity of this is from the bottommost style will always be applied. So that's as simple as that. So the h1 will be of green color. Other specificity models, and there are I told you about combinators as well. So you know, descendant inheritance and combinators is like a much more very is technically, you know, a little bit complicated, and it's not much needed. If you are preparing for interviews, you can go through it, but definitely I won't prefer, you know, studying it right now. Since this is my video, I can control whatever I want to do. Anyways, let's just revisit what we have gone through here. And chaining selectors, and then we studied about some basic properties. So the basic properties were as follows, and we studied about specificity. Great. So yeah, perfect. So let me just change it to h2. This one was turned into h1. Perfect. Yep. So yeah, that's how we will do it. So I guess this is all for this video, and I guess we can move further to a different section now. And let me just check if there's anything left. Internal CSS. Now okay, so there's how to link a CSS file as well. It's not needed, we already know, but still, linking a CSS file. So how to link a CSS file? There are 3 methods available. First of all, we have external CSS, we have internal CSS, and after that we have inline CSS. Alright, so these are the three types of CSS which we have. So technically in the external CSS what we have is exter. We technically make a sheet, and then after that we use the the link attribute link, and then ref. The syntax is follows as style sheet, as far as I am correct, AHRE, and then href. Sorry, this would be REL, relative, I guess. Yeah, relative style sheet, href, and we're gonna just maybe, if they are in the same folder, otherwise then whatever the name of the file is, file.css, and that's your that's how you do it. Internal CSS is a little bit, I mean, internal CSS, what you'll do is technically you'll use in the header, head section, what you'll do is in the head section, let me just head, this would be HTML. Yep, and this would be HTML as well. So in the head section what we'll do is we'll just there's a tag available, style tag. So inside the style tag now we can technically work in a similar way while we were as we were using a file, but it's not a good practice to mention. I mean, the similar practices, the similar syntax of the CSS would follow here in the internal CSS as well. So you can just let's say select a universal selector over here, and then you give it a color of color of, let's say, red. So technically it will yield same results. So just like you were using in external CSS, there was a separate file. Here you are gonna just write it in your HTML file only. All right, now last but not the least, we have inline CSS. Inline CSS is like a type of CSS, just where let's say we have an h1 tag, then we're gonna write color is equals to red. I am sure I'm giving you the right example. Oh yeah, so technically we'll use style equals to color red, and then we're gonna just write back background color black, and just a semicolon, just like that. So these values will be separated by semicolon. So yeah, and have to end it with and these will be enclosed under the double inverted commas, and then just write your this is a heading, and close this tag. So this is your inline CSS. That's all for that is all you need to know about the basics of CSS. This is this will help you to move this will help you to technically get you started with CSS, and you can apply CSS over here. So yeah, there was some kind of it's perfect. So we have structures of CSS, then we have selectors, type selectors, chaining selectors, then we learned about basic properties, then linking an external file. Perfect. We have this now. That's amazing. Yeah. All right, now. So now let's move forward with the assignment. So assignment, let's first of all try to answer all these questions which are stated over here. Knowledge check. So in this section contains questions for you to check your understanding of this lesson on your own. If you're having trouble answering a question, click it and review it and materials to the link. So obviously, so what is the main difference between external, internal, and inline CSS? So external CSS is a type of CSS where we have an extra file which is we create a separate CSS file and then link it to our HTML page. Internal CSS is that kind of CSS where you technically take a CSS where there inside the header element inside the header tag we specify the CSS properties encapsulated under the style tag, and basically the format and syntax remains the same. In inline CSS we choose an HTML tag within which using the style attribute we state all the properties with separated by semicolons encapsulated under double inverted commas. So what is the syntax for class and ID selector? Class selectors, if you remember, we class selectors we select it by using dot, and then for ID we use hashtag. Would you apply a single rule to two different selectors? Yeah, you can apply a single rule to two different how would you apply? By using we can use classes for that. And given an element that has an ID of title and a class of primary, how would you use both of the attribute to use for a single rule, title and primary? It's just we'll separate it by space. Am I right? Okay, since okay, this is a class, so we'll just use dot operators. Won't need to separate it by space. What does descendants and combinators do? That you don't need three types of selectors. Between a rule that uses one class selector and a rule that uses three types of selectors, which rule has the higher specificity? Three type selector. So obviously no matter how many types of selectors you use, the class selector will always have the higher specificity than type selector, and ID selector would have the greater specificity than both of them. So technically class selectors will be class selectors styles would be applied. Perfect. Now I guess I'll cover the assignment in a different video, because we are gonna learn some more stuff there, because that's the place, that's a playground. So I'll see you in the next video where we are gonna study and learn more about this. So until then, see you and have a great day.